We're going to talk about tuning today, and I want to give you a few tips on how to try to ensure that your guitar stays in tune a little bit better. Especially beginners, lots of problems with their guitars going in and out of tune, and quite often we want to blame the guitar for that. You know, something's wrong with the tuning pegs, or there's something mechanically not right with the guitar. And sometimes that may be the case, but often I find that the reason is something that we're doing wrong when we're tuning it, or the way that we strung the strings that's causing the guitar, or maybe something with the strings binding in the nut, which is knocking the guitar out of tune. One of the biggest things that I find that students, beginners, are not doing is they're not tuning up to a note when they're tuning their guitars. That's so important, because what you do when I mean tuning up, and I'm going to zoom in on a tight shot of a tuner, and I'm going to show you exactly, and you'll see the needle move graphically, and it'll make a lot of sense then. But what I mean is, you always want to, when you're tuning your guitars, you want to go, let's say your guitar is flat. Okay, and you want to go tighten, 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 or you're sharpening. When you're tightening the peg, you're sharpening. You're making that note sharper. You want to go tighten, 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 and get the tune, and then stop right there. A lot of times what happens is students will go, you know, this is tune right in the center. They'll tighten, 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 tighten. Ooh, I went too far, and now they're sharp, and they'll loosen, 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 loosen back to tune and stop. Or they might start off sharp, loosen, 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 loosen to tune, and then stop. And then what happens is you're ending on a loosen, and you do not want to do that, because when you end on a loosen, or you go from sharp to flat and stop in tune, what that does is it does not take all the slack out of the string, and it also may not take all the slack out of the gear. Your tuning pegs, there's gears behind there, and you want to take all the slack. And when you're tightening them, tighten, 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 that's going to take all the slack out of the gear and out of the string if you end, or you get to tune on a tighten, or going from flat to sharp. You just don't want to have it, you know, sharp and then back to tune and then stop. You want to then, if you are doing that, go further past back to flat and then tighten, tighten till you get to tune. Okay, I hope it doesn't sound confusing. I'm going to show you what I mean by the tuner, but that's a very, very crucial thing to do when you're tuning your guitars. Always try to end on a tighten, or get to tune by going from flat to sharp. Let's zoom in on the tuner, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. And what I'm talking about when I say tuning up to a note is this. Let's say you're tuning your low E string, and you could see the Korg tuner. I'm plugged directly into that from the guitar, and I'm going to strike the low E string. You're going to start to see the needle move. Now it's flat. The red light's indicating flat. Now I'm tightening the string, tightening, 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 tightening to get it to where the green light is, or A440 pitch, right? Now there it is. Now I got it dead on pretty much. Now once it's dead on, you're all set if you go there tightening it, or going from flat to sharp. Now let's say you're too sharp, or you went too far. You see how my E string is now sharp. I'm past 440, and the red light is on, indicating I'm sharp. Now I have to loosen to go back down to pitch. So if I start loosening and go down, 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 there. Now, if I was to stop right there and just play, what would happen is, it's possible the string would come out of tune, because I ended on a loosen, and that string still might have some slack in it and come out of tune, or the gear, there might be some slack in the gear. So what you have to do is, let's say if you're sharp, let's go sharp again. When you're tuning, you go past it. Now, tune down, but go way down into the flat, see? And then go up and end on a tighten. See, right now I'm tightening, 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 and I would end there. Okay? You don't want to end on a loosen, or going from sharp to flat. You always want to go flat and tighten, 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 tighten. If you go too far, back it back down, and well past, and then tighten back up again. So that's really going to help. If you haven't been doing that, your guitars may be coming out of tune because, you know, there's a little slack in the gear, or a little slack in the string. So that will alleviate that problem if you always remember, when you're tuning guitars, tuning your pegs, end on a tighten. Get the tune on a tighten. And if you are sharp, bring it well past back down, so it's very flat, and then back up to tighten, and get the tune that way. So that will really help. The other thing, just quick tips, is Remember too that old guitar strings aren't going to stay in tune very well. If your strings are really, really old, as they wear, and you know, from the oils and the salts in our hands and over time playing them, they get dead sounding, and they also, when they get old, they don't stay in tune as well. So make sure that you have a fresh set of strings on your guitar. And you know, I get a lot of emails asking me, well, how often should I change my strings? It kind of depends. It depends how often do you play, how much do your hands sweat, and how much oils are going from your hands and sweat onto the strings. If your hands are sweating a lot, or you have a lot more oily hands, always wipe your guitar down with like a soft cloth when you're done playing it. That will help preserve the string life. I change my strings often because I play live out a lot, and I don't want to bust one when I'm playing live. So remember to change your strings. Plus, new strings just sound so awesome. You know, they're just so crisp and beautiful and just lush sounding. You know, if you have your strings on there a long time and they're getting dead, put on a new set and then hit that first open chord, you'd be like, wow, this sounds really good. So change your strings regularly, tune the right way, and remember, may not always be something mechanically wrong with the guitar. It might be, but often than not, it's the way we're tuning. Or maybe there's something binding in the nut. Another thing is, it's important too, when you're restringing your guitars, when you're wrapping the strings around the post, you know, and tying that end off, you got to do that really in a neat fashion. A lot of times I see strings, you know, wrapped up, down, across, back, and you know, and that's not making a real solid grab. And there's play when it's all messy and ugly like that. And a lot of times that loosens up a little bit, and that's why your guitar will come out of tune. So when it comes to stringing, neatness counts, and going, you know, one under the next in a nice, neat coil. Okay? So try that. That might help, because it's a pet peeve of mine. There's nothing worse than a guitar that keeps coming out of tune. It's very frustrating. Hope that helps, and we will see you in the next lesson.